If you walk into a bank tomorrow with $200,000 in cash and tell them you want to start a brand new, independent restaurant, they will probably laugh you right out of the building. The failure rate is brutal. The risk is sky high, and most independent spots bleed cash until they close within 3 short years. But if you walk into that exact same bank and tell them you want to buy a Subway franchise, suddenly, the entire dynamic shifts. The doors swing wide open, smiles appear, and the loans get approved. You get the shiny keys to a globally recognized brand, a proven operational playbook, and the absolute promise that you are finally becoming your own boss. You are no longer just another employee taking orders. You are a proud business owner. But what if the safest, most reliable path to owning a business is actually one of the most masterfully designed corporate traps in modern business history? What if you didn't actually buy a business at all, but simply paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for the privilege of buying a grueling, low-paying job where your landlord, your supplier, and your strict boss are all the exact same corporation? Welcome to the hidden economic machine of the world's largest sandwich empire, a system where profits for corporate mean pain for the people running the stores. To understand how this massive illusion really works, you have to look way past the fresh baked bread, past the green logos, and look directly at the hidden financial math. Consider the story of a middle-class couple who took their life savings, remortgaged their home, and put every single dollar into a new location. They thought they were buying guaranteed security until they opened their doors and realized the game was rigged before they even made their first sandwich. When most people think of fast food giants, they instantly picture McDonald's or Chick-fil-A. Building one of those giant locations requires millions of dollars in personal net worth, strict liquid capital requirements, and intense corporate vetting. Subway, however, took a completely different path that changed franchising forever. They made opening a location absurdly cheap and practically effortless in the early days. All you needed was roughly $15,000 for the initial franchise fee, and a total setup cost that was a tiny fraction of any real competitor. No expensive deep fryers, no massive grease traps, no high-end commercial exhaust hoods, just a basic sink, a simple toaster oven, a glass display case, and a small footprint in a strip mall. It sounded like the ultimate democratized dream, allowing ordinary families, immigrants searching for opportunity, and first-time entrepreneurs to claim their slice of the global economy. And for a while, it looked like absolute magic, as thousands of locations popped up overnight across strip malls, gas stations, and airports. Subway rapidly exploded to have more physical locations on the planet than McDonald's, becoming the largest fast food chain in existence. But here is where the story takes a sharp, dark turn, and where the real financial conflict begins. Because you see, when you buy a traditional independent business, your goals and the company's goals are completely aligned. You both desperately want the store to make a healthy net profit. Inside the Subway corporate ecosystem, the financial incentives are fundamentally split, creating a dangerous conflict of interest. Subway corporate does not make its primary fortune from the actual net profits of a store. Not even close. They make their massive fortune from top-line gross revenue, taking cash before the owner even touches a dime, every single Tuesday, before a store owner pays for fresh turkey, before they pay for bread dough, before they pay rent, power, or employee wages. Corporate takes a mandatory 8% royalty cut, straight off the total cash register sales. On top of that, they demand another 4.5% for a mandatory advertising fund. Think about what that actually means for a real human being running a store. If your store does $10,000 in sales this week, corporate takes $1,250 right off the top, automatically. It does not matter if ingredient costs doubled. It does not matter if your electricity bill tripled. And it does not matter if you, the owner, personally lost money that week. Corporate gets paid every single week without taking a single cent of operational risk, and that creates a massive Systemic issue that almost no prospective franchisee notices until it is far too late. Corporate is financially incentivized to open as many stores as humanly possible, anywhere and everywhere. Because 2 stores generating $5,000 each pay corporate the exact same royalty as 1 store generating $10,000. For corporate headquarters, more stores always equals more revenue, regardless of individual performance. But for the individual owner, having another Subway open just 3 blocks down the street is an absolute financial catastrophe. It splits the local customer base, guts daily sales, and completely destroys fragile profit margins. Yet, for decades, thousands of owners woke up to discover a brand new Subway opening right around the corner, authorized by the very company they paid to join. They were forced to fight against their own brand for survival. But that's only part of the story, because the real trap goes even deeper. You see, when you operate a franchise like this, you can't just walk down to the local wholesale market to buy lettuce, tomatoes, or paper cups. Absolute control is held elsewhere. You are legally bound by contract to buy every single item, from corporate-approved distributors at prices you cannot negotiate. The bread dough, the deli meats, the specialized ovens, even the napkins and point-of-sale register software must come directly through their closed supply chain system. This creates an incredible, hidden profit engine for headquarters. When corporate negotiates massive supply deals or controls the distribution network, markups get quietly layered into the supply chain and pass straight down to the store owners. You, as the operator, have zero bargaining power whatsoever. If the price of approved turkey or bread dough jumps by 20%, you have to pay it without complaint. You cannot shop around for a cheaper local vendor. You are completely locked in, with nowhere to run. Now, layer on the most shocking structural secret of all, the real estate strategy, in thousands of locations. Subway Corporate didn't just license the logo. They actually held the primary master lease on the physical retail building. They then sublease the property right back to you, the franchisee. Think about the absolute leverage that creates. If you step out of line, if you complain about dwindling profit margins, or if you refuse to run a promotional campaign that actively loses you money, corporate controls the lease to your front door. You are operating inside a system where your supplier, your franchisor, and your strict landlord are all the exact same corporate powerhouse. So, why did millions of customers and thousands of owners buy into this system for so long? The answer lies in one of the most famous and destructive marketing strategies in fast food history, the $5 footlong. When that campaign launched, it was a promotional stroke of absolute genius. Sales exploded, foot traffic surged, and Subway became an unstoppable cultural phenomenon overnight. Every television screen was blasting the catchy tune, and customers were lining up around the block. But while corporate executives were celebrating record-breaking gross revenue numbers, store owners were quietly drowning in losses when meat prices, labor costs, and rent began to rise over time. Making a massive footlong sandwich for just $5 meant the profit margin on each sale crashed to zero, or even negative territory. Owners were literally losing money on every single sandwich they handed across the counter. Franchisees begged corporate to end the promotion, or at least let local store owners opt out to save their livelihoods. Corporate refused for years, pushing the promotion relentlessly. Why? Because higher sales volume meant higher gross revenue, which meant massive, uninterrupted royalty checks flowing directly to headquarters. For corporate, selling more discounted sandwiches was a massive victory. But for the store owner doing the hard labor, it was financial suicide. And then, the inevitable tipping point finally arrived, exposing the cracks in the foundation. Oversaturation reached a breaking point, where stores were quite literally cannibalizing each other's foot traffic. Quality control began to fall apart across tens of thousands of independent locations, damaging the reputation of the entire system. Modern, nimble competitors like Jersey Mike's, Jimmy John's, and Chipotle entered the market, offering fresher ingredients, higher quality meats, and sleek, Modern store designs, Subway's green and yellow aesthetic suddenly felt outdated, forgotten, and cheap when foot traffic began to drop nationwide. Store revenues plummeted, leaving franchisees in a desperate position. And that's when corporate dropped another heavy requirement: mandatory multi-thousand-dollar store remodels. To keep the global brand looking modern, owners were forced to update their locations with expensive new decor, modern lighting, and digital menu boards. A single remodel could cost an owner over $100,000, a crushing financial blow for a store already struggling to break even. If an owner couldn't afford the forced upgrade, they faced contract default, losing their initial investment entirely. This triggered an unprecedented wave of store closures across the globe. As thousands of owners threw in the towel, entrepreneurs who had poured their life savings, their sweat, and their dreams into the business were left with empty bank accounts and mountains of debt. Many tried to sell their locations, only to find that nobody wanted to buy a business with fixed high costs and shrinking profit margins. They were completely trapped inside a contract they couldn't escape, raising a vital question: how could a business model like this survive in the modern era? The answer came in the form of massive private equity. A global investment firm stepped in, purchasing the entire corporate empire for over $9 billion. Now, the playbook is being completely rewritten from the top down. The focus has violently shifted away from opening thousands of tiny mom-and-pop stores on every corner. Instead, private equity is consolidating power, pushing out single-store owners, and handing operations over to massive corporate multi-unit operators. They are introducing automatic meat slicers, installing drive-through lanes, launching digital ordering apps, and forcing a massive modernization push to squeeze maximum profit out of the footprint. They are transforming the chain from a localized dream into a high-tech, streamlined corporate machine. When you step back and analyze this entire corporate saga, the ultimate insight becomes impossible to ignore. Subway was never just a fast food sandwich company. It was a brilliantly calculated financial system, a system designed to minimize corporate risk, eliminate real estate liabilities, and maximize top-line revenue cuts from the ground up. It built a multi-billion-dollar global empire by convincing everyday people to carry all the financial risk. While corporate collected guaranteed paychecks every single week, the next time you walk past a fast food store in a quiet strip mall, look past the shiny signs and the fresh ingredients. You aren't just looking at a restaurant. You are looking at a complex economic engine, where the person behind the counter might just be paying the highest price of all.